Stop using plastic. 10 kitchen items like cutting boards and sponges hide microplastics reveals how everyday plastics in your kitchen can shed microplastics and may leach chemicals into your food. From your beloved cutting board to magic cleaning sponges, tea bags, and plastic storage containers, this video shines a light on 10 common culprits. You'll also learn how utensils, dishwashing sponges, plastic water bottles, black plastic containers, wrap and food films, and non-stick coatings can contaminate meals. We'll share practical swaps and simple habits to reduce exposure and keep your kitchen safer. 1. Your beloved cutting board is a microplastic factory. Every time you chop vegetables on your trusty plastic cutting board, you're serving up more than just dinner ingredients. Based on our assumptions, we estimated a per-person annual exposure of 7.450.7 g of microplastics from a polyethylene chopping board and 49.5 grams of microplastics from a polypropylene chopping board. We further estimated that a person could be exposed to 14.5 to 71.9 million polyethylene microplastics annually, compared to 79.4 million polypropylene microplastics from chopping boards. That's like eating 10 plastic credit cards worth of microplastics every year just from cutting vegetables. The researchers, led by scientists from the University of North Dakota, also found that cutting carrots on a plastic board can generate as much as 15 milligrams of microplastics per cut, or about 50 grams per year, roughly equivalent to the weight of 10 plastic credit cards. The scariest part? The mass and number of microplastics released from polypropylene chopping boards were greater than polyethylene by 560% and 1471%, respectively. Your knife isn't just cutting through carrots, it's literally shaving off tiny plastic particles that end up in your food. 2. Magic cleaning sponges are microscopic pollution bombs. Those magic melamine sponges you use to scrub away stubborn stains are creating an invisible environmental disaster. Assuming these numbers stay consistent, the team calculated that 1.55 trillion fibers from melamine sponges could be released every month. However, this number only takes into account one online retailer, so the actual amount could be even higher. Every month, just from Amazon sales alone, these innocent-looking cleaning tools pump out more than 1.5 trillion microplastic particles into our environment. Next, the team determined that a single sponge releases approximately 6.5 million fibers per gram of worn-out sponge and assumed that all sponges sold, on average, are worn down by 10%. Think about that for a moment. Every time you scrub a wall or clean your sink, millions of invisible plastic particles are washing down your drain. But, as the sponges wear away from use, the foam breaks down into smaller pieces that can release microplastic fibers that wash into sewer systems. Once released into the environment, the fibers can be consumed by wildlife and make their way into the food chain. 3. Tea bags transform your daily cup into plastic soup. Your morning tea ritual might be flooding your body with billions of plastic particles. According to a recent study, each cup of tea produced by one plastic tea bag steeped at brewing temperature included roughly 11.6 billion MPs and 3.1 billion nanoplastics, NPs. That single cup contains thousands of times more plastic than table salt, which already has concerning levels of microplastic contamination. Upon steeping, the polypropylene, cellulose, and nylon 6 bags released approximately 1.2 billion particles per milliliter, with an average size of 136.7 nanometers, nm. 135 particles per milliliter with an average size of 244 nanometers, and 8.18 million particles per milliliter with an average size of 138.4 nanometers, respectively. The heat from brewing breaks down the plastic tea bag material, releasing particles so small they can enter your cells. The experiment showed that mucus-producing intestinal cells internalize the greatest amount of nano and microplastics, with the particles entering the cell nucleus, suggesting an important role of intestinal mucus in the uptake of plastic pollutants. 4. Plastic food storage containers are leaching danger. Your favorite plastic containers are slowly contaminating every meal you store in them. Storage of hot food in takeout containers accelerates the rate of leaching of microplastics and other potentially hazardous substances. The warmer the food, the faster these containers break down and release particles directly into what you're planning to eat later. Heating plastic containers can cause millions of microplastics and billions of nanoplastic particles to be released, one study found. That leftover pasta you heated up in a plastic container? You just created a microplastic cocktail. Microplastic particles from food containers have been found to be associated with altered gut and oral microbiota, as well as other health issues. People who consume takeout food over a long period of time face a greater risk of these health hazards. 5. Kitchen utensils are secretly shedding plastic. According to one 2024 study, plastic cookware may contribute thousands of microplastic particles each year to homemade food. Your plastic spatulas, ladles, and mixing spoons aren't just stirring your food, they're literally mixing in microscopic plastic fragments with every use. The friction from cooking creates heat and pressure that breaks down these utensils at the molecular level. The result: jelly prepared with new plastic cookware had about 9 microplastic particles per sample on average, and jelly made with the old plastic cookware had 16. In other words, when jelly was made with worn-out items, it had 78% more microplastics than when it was prepared with new ones. Your well-loved, scratched-up cooking tools are the worst offenders. They release nearly twice as many plastic particles as brand new ones. 6. Dishwashing sponges release hidden microfibers. The typical yellow and green kitchen sponge is made of petroleum-based polyurethane. A detrimental extraction and production process means that polyurethane sponges already have a large environmental footprint when they hit grocery store shelves. Every dish you wash with these common sponges sends thousands of microfiber particles down your drain and into the environment. Through mapping the characteristic peaks from the matrix that contains hundreds, even thousands of Raman spectra, it is confirmed that the particles released from the soft and hard layers of the sponge are mainly nylon PA6 and polyethylene terephthalate, respectively. Older sponges are likely to release particles more easily due to the breakdown of the core network on the sponge. That worn-out sponge you've been meaning to replace? It's releasing even more plastic particles with each scrub. 7. Plastic water bottles create contamination with every twist. In fact, according to one study, most microplastics in bottled water originate from twisting the cap. Each time you open and close a plastic bottle, the study found, you produce about 500 microplastic particles. Your simple act of opening a water bottle creates friction that shears off hundreds of microscopic plastic fragments directly into your drinking water. Warming it up, like you may do in a microwave, Bullen says, dramatically accelerates the release of microplastics. In a 2025 study, disposable plastic cups that were filled with scalding 95 degrees Celsius water released 50% more microplastics than cups filled with cooler, 50 degrees Celsius water. Heat makes everything worse. Hot drinks in plastic cups release 50% more contamination than cold ones. 8. Black plastic food containers harbor toxic surprises. Improper recycling of TVs, computers, and other electronics is exposing consumers to toxins in black plastic products such as black plastic takeout containers, food utensils, toys, and hair products. Research published in the scientific journal Chemosphere in 2024 reported hazardous flame retardants in 85% of these products that they sampled. That sleek black takeout container isn't just releasing microplastics, it might also be contaminated with toxic flame retardants from recycled electronics. Although the article as originally published contained a math error that greatly exaggerated the risks, it is important to understand that flame retardants interfere with hormones, potentially harming sexual function and fertility, damaging the brain, and increasing the chances of developing cancer. These chemicals don't just stay in the plastic, they migrate into your food, especially when heated. 9. Plastic wrap and food films contaminate everything they touch. Plastic coverings and preservation items, such as cling film and silicone wrap, have made a significant contribution to food preservation by effectively shielding food from oxygen, water vapor, and microorganisms. These food preservation materials often play a significant role in our daily lives, whether it is for reheating leftovers in the microwave, covering food in the fridge, or being used in baking. But this convenience comes at a hidden cost. For example, exposing non-stick and plastic cookware to high temperatures can release toxic fumes, degradation of the plastic, and migration of plastic leachates into food. Similarly, microplastics can be released from the inner surface of food containers during freezing and thawing cycles. Temperature changes, whether freezing leftovers or reheating them, cause plastic wrap to break down and transfer particles directly to your food. 10. Non-stick cookware coatings are breaking down. The aging and manufacturing processes of utensils can significantly influence the release of microplastics, with extended use and wear increasing the likelihood of malformations, cracking and oxidization of the plastic. With non-stick cookware and utensils, prolonged use can result in the loss of protective layers or coatings, allowing for increased contact between the utensils and the food being prepared and loss of integrity. Those scratches and chips in your non-stick pans aren't just cosmetic damage, they're evidence of coating breakdown that's contaminating your meals. A plethora of kitchen utensils, encompassing coated non-stick pans, plastic cutting boards, and disposable utensils, are known to release substantial quantities of MP's particles in everyday use, which can then be ingested alongside food. Every time you cook with damaged non-stick cookware, you're essentially serving microplastics as a side dish.